All right. First rule of this channel, we do not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So welcome to Chasing the Dragon week 11. This is where I talk about the reactive waiver wire pickups after getting done with my notes for tomorrow's after waiver show. So this is a really interesting week from a waiver perspective because I went through and thought I had the guys that I would be uh, reactively picking up from waivers. And then I went and I kind of was looking at the other sites and what they were saying should be the waiver pickups. And they're talking about the guys that should have been picked up last week. So if those guys are available, yeah, those should absolutely be priority guys that you're dumping a whole bunch on. So the main guy this week is Ty Chandler that I would be picking up proactively, or excuse me, reactively from the news that Alexander Madison got a concussion. Chandler looked better than Madison did in the game. He's just a better athlete. May not be a very good football player. There's probably a reason why the coaches have not been giving him a workload, why they traded for Cam Akers and all that stuff. But again, this guy will probably be able to win a week, and you can decide how much that's worth it to you to at least block your opponent from doing so against you. So Ty Chandler actually goes back to the video on 40 Degree Days, talking about upside of players. So, like, absolutely like Ty Chandler as a prospect. I think he's okay, but from a fantasy perspective, he can win leagues if he gets that 60-40 split and he gets the right split of the receiving work and the red zone work on an okay to good offense. Then, yeah, absolutely can get there. Let's see. Moving on. So I have other guys brought up because I was looking at some of the other channels like I talked about. So Josh Dobbs is still up there. I think he's still owned in about 60% of leagues. He should be rostered in all leagues. He's probably going to finish as like a top 10 or top 5 quarterback this year. So definitely at the very least should be blocking your opponents from getting a hold of him if he's still available. I think he's going to have some really ugly weeks, but just that rushing floor, as you can see, he's gone 4 straight weeks with a rushing touchdown. That's going to just get it done most weeks and propel him up into the ranks of being able to compete with those elite tier guys that capital was spent on. And again, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow with the after waiver video. A guy like this winning in the right weeks will allow you to win a league because you spent capital someplace else other than quarterback. Trey McBride, again, his is another guy probably shouldn't be or should be rostered. May have been dropped after last week's performance, but Clayton Tune started last week, bad matchup, all that jazz. Then he goes off this week for 9 targets, 8 receptions, 131 yards against Atlanta after going up against that Cleveland matchup. And again, this is a unicorn. He may end up being the number 1 receiver for the rest of the year on the Cardinals offense led by Kyler Murray. Again, Kyler Murray is probably going to get the rust off. But again, a tight end will never lose you a week. He can only win you a league. So again, if he's still available, I don't know why but again, some of the sites I was looking at still have him listed as the top waiver wire pickup. Should have been the top waiver wire pickup 2 weeks ago. Devin Singletary shouldn't be available in any leagues, but they're talking about him. Any back that's going to get that 75, 81% workload, that workload in the backfield should be rostered. I said don't roll him out this week, but then I got burned. But hopefully, you didn't listen about benching him, and B, yeah, I don't know why he would not be rostered in any leagues. A guy I've been talking about since this week 6 flip in usage between him and Dameon Pierce. So again, if he's available in your league, yeah, at the very least, probably should be blocking. Noah Brown again should be rostered already in all leagues. As soon as the news came out that Nico Collins was probably going to be out, that would vault him up at least until wide receiver 3 status. I don't know how much long-term value he has between Nico Collins, maybe eventually coming out. I don't know what his role will be between the two of them. And then you're trying to guess the pecking order between Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, and then you have other guys that could get into the mix, like a Robert Woods taking some opportunities away, and John Mechie. But again, for the time being, here's a guy that after 2 weeks of doing 153 yards and 172 yards, like, he could definitely win you a week right now. And again, that just has to do with like how much value you place in being able to win or lose a week. And again, this isn't just him going in your lineup. This is him going in someone else's lineup that you might face. Keaton Mitchell should be rostered already. Um, I did see that John Harbaugh talked about like the coaches messed up by not giving him more opportunities. But again, I wouldn't have paid for him last week. I still wouldn't be paying for him. The reason why I think he should have already been rostered is if he slipped through your waivers, he should have been picked up. I think there's maybe a little bit more priority to him this week between his high efficiency on the limited touches. He only had 5 opportunities last week. But if the coaches are going to come out, and we don't always like to follow coach speak, but in this case, like the efficiency is so high that I would be spending a little bit more on him than I would have last week, which I wouldn't have spent anything on. I would put a little bit down again, especially from the standpoint of blocking. And Demario Douglas, I'm not interested in at all, but he should have already been picked up. He was like a priority ad last week, reactively. And these numbers are a little inflated. Again, these are horizontal targets. Even his big gain of the day, which is like a 30-yarder, was like a fake Hail Mary. So I'm not interested in him, but he should have already been rostered. Wide receiver 3s grow on trees. So you do you. The quote unquote number one option in a bad offense. Zach Charbonnet, again, another guy that should have already been rostered, but I did see him on a lot of boards. Absolutely should be rostered, and I would probably be spending on him. We'll get to all the guys I would be spending on here in a second. But again, he outsnapped Kenneth Walker, was efficient. I still don't think, unless there's an injury, he's going to be able to win you a league. But this is probably the time of the season where I don't want as many wide receiver 3s on my roster as soon as I know that I can make it through the buys. Unless I'm worried about them being on someone else's roster, this is when I would be stashing guys like Charbonnet. And if I'm a Kenneth Walker owner, I absolutely should get a hold of him somehow, some way, but he should have already been rostered. So Ty Chandler, again, I already talked about him to start off the show. He should have already been rostered, cuffed to the Alexander Madison owner. If you didn't do that and he's still available, 1 week rental, I would be pushing, as much as necessary to probably get him at this point. Like, I think he does have a road to win a league, but the more important thing is like, how much is a weekly win worth to you? And right now with how limited the wire is and how badly the running back position has performed, I would be putting a priority on him. Does have the nimbly bimbly and does have the ability to catch passes out of the backfield, and did have a design snap to him in the red zone for his touchdown. So I do like all that stuff. Rico Dowdle is another guy I've been talking about cuffing to Tony Pollard, but the rumor was that they were going to get him involved regardless of the game script, and he delivered. You could argue he's better than Tony Pollard at this point. I would be looking more towards him potentially being an RB2, even if Tony Pollard's there. They could go back to that Thunder and Lightning they had with Pollard and Zeke last year that allows like Pollard to be used more efficiently. So there may be some standalone value to Rico Dowdle. The problem with him is going to be that game script with the Cowboys and how good the defense is, and potentially how good the passing game is. So to be able to predict accordingly, but I would be spending on him. Both Chandler probably won't make it through waivers. I could definitely see that Rico Dowdle will, and then stashing a guy like Rico Dowdle would be a huge priority to me to be proactive in that regard. Quentin Johnston's another guy that probably should already have been rostered, especially after last week. The Jets matchup was a bad matchup, and I did say that, like, bad matchups aside, guys should be able to produce, but the road for him to be able to win leagues was happening regardless of this last output where they did have a design passing play to him in the red zone. Now Keaton Allen is dealing with a shoulder injury. I could see a bump in production. I don't know if he quite has the ability to win a league at this rate, because I think he is developmentally behind other guys at the position, but there is an avenue for him to be more than a wide receiver 3. And like I said, wide receiver 3s do grow on trees. And if he can get to that wide receiver 2 role for the Chargers offense, then he's going to have the ability to at least give you a 40-degree day coming up in playoffs. That would be something I would be interested in. Brandon Cooks, I don't know why he's popped up on anybody's radar, other than the fact that he did 10 for 9 and 173 and a touchdown in that blowout against the Giants. I just don't think this is sustainable. He's probably going to, at best, in a good game script, be the number 2 And I just don't know with the Cowboys how many good game scripts they're going to have. There's a possibility over the playoffs that Detroit, Miami, Buffalo, Philadelphia, that he's going to be able to contribute because they're not going to be on these big blowouts. They're going to play better offenses. I wouldn't be spending on him. I tend to think that he's going to be very unpredictable as the number 3 in this offense. I think it would still go CD Lamb and then Jake Ferguson, and then who's open between him and Michael Gallup on a week-to-week basis. So it's going to be very difficult to chase this dragon. If he falls through waivers and you're hurting at wide receiver, then yeah, absolutely. If that's the guy that you want to go after, why not see what he's going to be able to do next week? But I just don't know any way to be able to predict what he's going to be able to do from a usage standpoint, because before this game, he's maxed out at 7 targets in week 3 and wasn't very efficient for 2 receptions. And then he's been hovering about 4 and then 2 last week against Philadelphia. So again, you're this is why it's called chasing the dragon. You're trying to get that production after it's already happened, and there's no way to guarantee that it's going to be predictive. Jaden Reed's a guy I've been talking about all year. I imagine he should be rostered in a lot of the deeper leagues already. The problem with Jaden Reed is going to be he's attached to the offense with Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, and then there's Wicks and Luke Musgrave, the tight end. And I just don't know on a week-to-week basis when you're going to be able to predict that he's not going to give you not just a 40-degree day, but a sub 40-degree day, and lose you a week. So in week 5, 1.2, he may have been out. He might have got knocked out in that game, but 48% snaps in week 7, 39% snaps in week 9. It's that he's not even going to be on the field to be able to predict his actual usage once he does get on the field. And that's also on top of trying to predict if Jordan Love is going to be good at football that week or bad at football that week, if the coaches are going to be good or the coaches are going to be bad. Again, these are all nice guys to be stashing at the bottom of your roster, but at this point, should be transitioning away from those stash wide receiver 3s towards multiple defenses and knowing who you're going to plug in if there's an injury. So again, having a Josh Dobbs as your quarterback 2, as insurance against a Jalen Hurts or CJ Stroud may be a better play than hoping that Jaden Reed can magically become the wide receiver 1 for a not good Packers offense. And again, he only did 51% snaps this week. So moving on to Elijah Moore, have no idea why he's up there. I got off the Elijah Moore train earlier in the season when I was chasing these 7 targets and a couple of carries a game, and it's just not going to be predictive. It's just not a thing. The number 2 in the passing game right now for the Browns is David Njoku, and he's not going to move into that role of being the number 2. They are designing stuff for David Njoku, including in the red zone, and they have Kareem Hunt, they have Jerome Ford, so and obviously Amari Cooper is the number 1 there. So it's going to be very difficult to ever see that he has predictive spike weeks, let alone spike weeks at all, with only a 12.9 half point PPR to go along with 7 targets, 5 receptions. And this was a scramble drill touchdown that he had against Baltimore. Again, probably better guys to be chasing. I thought there might have been a thing with Elijah Moore early in the season. I just don't see it now. And the other thing is, the Browns have a very good defense, which means their offense does not have to be anything more than okay. And if they're probably going to be hovering around 200 yards passing a game, and to be able to support multiple receivers, they have to be closer to 300 yards a game, and that's not going to happen. There's no way the defense is going to allow them to ever have to play like that. So the last 2 guys to shake this out, there's only one. It's Rashid Shaheed. So Michael Thomas is supposed to have a significant knee injury for whatever that's worth. The problem with Rashid Shaheed is not that I don't like him. It's the fact that he, even with Michael Thomas going out, was only at 69% snaps, 9 targets, not very vertically driven. That's what the ones that we like. Normally, he does get more of the air yards. The problem with Rashid Shaheed, and they're going into a bye on top of this, is A.T. Perry, the 6th-round draft pick from Wake Forest for the Saints, actually outsnapped them at 84% snaps, 4 targets. So if there's a guy that I would be spending on in the future for the Saints offense, it's going to be A.T. Perry. And again, the other thing is, to finish off with Rashid Shaheed, is he may be more of this role play gadget guy where they only want to give him so many touches a game in the passing game, and then they're using him in the return game. So a team will reduce the amount of opportunities that they have on offense because they want to keep him fresh for that return game. And if they like A.T. Perry in that bigger role, again, Rashid Shaheed may not slot into Michael Thomas's role in the offense the same way that A.T. Perry does. So again, I wouldn't be spending on Shaheed. I would just be picking up and stashing A.T. Perry if that's what I was into. Again, being proactive and not reactive, and chasing the dragons about being reactive. So the only guys that I would be really reactive with are Ty Chandler and maybe Rico Dowdle. Everybody else outside of, if you're just in a league where like Josh Dobbs, Trey McBride, Devin Singletary, Noah Brown, probably not Keaton Mitchell or Demario Douglas, Zach Charbonnet, yeah, but definitely Ty Chandler and Rico Dowdle, I would be prioritizing spending a little bit of money on to get this week. So anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow in the after waivers video.